In a stunning turn, the United States has lost its role as the primary host of the upcoming World Cup. FIFA announced from Zurich that Canada will now be the sole official host, redrawing the map of the world's biggest sporting event. American cities had spent years preparing, upgrading stadiums, fast-tracking infrastructure, and gearing up for a coast-to-coast celebration. Now, all of that has come to an abrupt halt. The original plan was a North American partnership, with the US hosting the majority of matches, including the final at MetLife Stadium. This was meant to cement soccer's place in the American mainstream. Cities from Los Angeles to Boston invested heavily, hoping for a piece of the global spectacle. The news broke unexpectedly, leaving officials and fans in disbelief. Initial rumors were dismissed, but official statements from FIFA and US Soccer confirmed the reality. The World Cup was moving north. The reasons cited were complex: logistical, financial, and political issues that had simmered for months. For the public, it felt like a sudden betrayal. The world's biggest party would go on, but America was no longer the host. This is the most significant logistical pivot in World Cup history, with massive implications for sponsors, broadcasters, and millions of fans. The focus now shifts to Canada, once a junior partner, now thrust into the global spotlight. The world is watching to see if Canada can pull off the impossible. FIFA's decision followed months of tense negotiations. The main issue: the US government couldn't provide the sweeping financial and legal guarantees FIFA demanded. FIFA requires host nations to offer tax exemptions and government-backed security and infrastructure commitments. US officials proposed a decentralized model, but FIFA found it too risky. Stadium and infrastructure delays, especially in Los Angeles and Dallas, raised further concerns. Local labor disputes and supply chain issues created unacceptable operational risks. In contrast, Canada's government moved quickly, offering centralized guarantees, national tax exemptions, and a federal fund for overruns. This unified approach was exactly what FIFA wanted. Canada's willingness to meet all of FIFA's terms made it a more attractive partner. A final sticking point was commercial rights. US organizers wanted more control over advertising and media, clashing with FIFA's global model. When talks stalled, FIFA opted for a clean break. Canada, already on board with FIFA's terms, became the immediate solution. The decision was less about stadiums and more about certainty, control, and partnership. For FIFA, Canada offered a risk-free path forward. The US was left on the outside, its ambitions undone by politics and logistics. The switch was sudden, but for FIFA, it was necessary. Canada seized the moment, and the world's attention shifted north. Across the US, shock quickly turned to anger and frustration. US Soccer President Cindy Parlow-Cone called FIFA's decision a gut punch, highlighting years of work and billions spent by host cities. Mayors from cities like Philadelphia and Seattle decried the economic blow and broken promises. Fans felt betrayed. Supporters groups and social media erupted with outrage, accusing FIFA of prioritizing money over the game. Some blamed US officials for failing to secure the deal. The financial fallout was immediate. Companies invested in the US World Cup saw stock dips, and sponsors scrambled to renegotiate. Economic impact studies promising billions in benefits were suddenly obsolete. Instead of a windfall, cities faced lost investments and wasted effort. Politically, the decision sparked bipartisan outrage in Washington. Lawmakers called for investigations and demanded a tougher stance against international sporting bodies. The narrative: the US had been outmaneuvered and embarrassed on the world stage. The dream of using the World Cup for soft power and diplomacy had backfired. Now, officials must manage the political and public relations fallout. The loss is more than financial. It's a blow to national pride. America is left to wonder how it lost the world's biggest sporting event. While the US mourned, Canada celebrated. Prime Minister Trudeau declared, "This is Canada's moment. We're ready to deliver the greatest World Cup in history." The government launched The World in One Country, highlighting Canada's diversity and unity. The Canadian Soccer Association promised a sustainable, accessible, fan-first tournament. Plans include free public transit for ticket holders, zero-waste stadiums, and renewable energy. Canada aims to set a new standard for environmental responsibility in sports. The challenge? Scaling up from 10 to 80 matches, securing more stadiums, and coordinating logistics nationwide. A special World Cup task force was formed to streamline planning and avoid the pitfalls that hampered the US. The excitement is palpable. Ticket demand is surging, and a new generation of Canadian soccer fans is energized. Canada's original bid had just Toronto and Vancouver. Now, the plan spans 8 cities from coast to coast. In the West, Vancouver's BC Place, Edmonton's Commonwealth Stadium, and Calgary's McMahon Stadium. Central Canada features Toronto's BMO Field, Montreal's Olympic Stadium, and Ottawa's TD Place. Halifax, Nova Scotia, will build a new modular stadium, ensuring Atlantic Canada is included. Regina's Mosaic Stadium brings the World Cup to the prairies. The goal? Unite the country through sport. The logistics are daunting. Vancouver to Halifax is over 6,000 kilometers. Teams will be grouped geographically to minimize travel, and Air Canada and Via Rail will boost services for fans. The tournament's success hinges on this national transportation network. The US plan was built for scale: 11 cities, $5 billion in projected impact, and millions of visitors. It was a commercial juggernaut, maximizing revenue at every turn. Canada's model is smaller but more strategic, with $2.5 to $3 billion in projected impact. The benefits will be more deeply felt in 8 cities, with a focus on long-term infrastructure and community sports. The US relied on private investment and city funds, creating a complex web of obligations. Canada's plan is backed by over $1 billion in federal funding, spreading the financial burden nationwide. Global sponsors will pivot to Canada, while Canadian brands like Tim Hortons and Bell Canada step up. For American sponsors, the value of their investment has plummeted. For Canada, it's a chance to boost its corporate sector and national pride. The shift is a win for Canadian business and community legacy. Players' reactions were mixed. US stars like Christian Pulisic called the decision heartbreaking, a lost chance to play at home. For Canadian players like Alphonso Davies, it's a dream come true and a validation of their progress. International players were surprised but focused on the competition, as long as facilities are world-class. Many global fans now face travel headaches, having booked US trips. Some are frustrated with FIFA's late change, but others are excited by the prospect of a Canadian World Cup. Canada's reputation for hospitality and a more fan-centric tournament is appealing. The idea of a cozier, more accessible World Cup has generated positive buzz. For many, the shift north is a welcome surprise. The US plan was about scale: bigger, louder, more profitable. Each city was a franchise, competing to put on the best show, but the complexity and commercialism became its downfall. Canada's approach is synergy and unity, with centralized government support and a cohesive national identity. The motto, "The world in one country," is both a slogan and an operational philosophy. Canada's legacy focus includes stadium upgrades and grassroots soccer funding. The US saw legacy as continued soccer growth. Canada aims for lasting community impact. The two plans reflect their nations, America's bold ambition versus Canada's collaborative spirit. FIFA's choice signals a preference for certainty and partnership over sheer scale. The World Cup will now showcase a distinctly Canadian vision. The World Cup's move from the US to Canada is a watershed moment for global sports. It was a perfect storm of financial disputes, logistical concerns, and clashing philosophies. The US offered scale, but not the guarantees FIFA wanted. Canada delivered certainty and partnership. The implications are huge disappointment and economic loss for the US, a nation-defining opportunity for Canada. The world's attention now turns north, as Canada prepares for a spectacle it never expected to host alone. This episode shows that hosting rights are no longer set in stone. Political will, financial guarantees, and alignment with global organizations now matter most. The future of global sports hosting may be a perpetual campaign for certainty and partnership.